Good afternoon and welcome back to My Harlem Portraits, the show that aims at shedding a light on the fundamental contribution that African American has given to the building of this country and on Black excellence. To represent Black excellence today, we have two beautiful women, two talented women who are Edisa Weeks is a choreographer, educator, multimedia artist, and founder of Delirious Dances. And we have Miss Toya Lillard, is a theater artist, a director, an arts educator, and facilitator. And she is the executive director of 651 Arts. Welcome to My Harlem Portraits, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you. Awesome to be here.
Thank you for taking the time for this conversation. Today we are here to talk about your partnership. In fact, from November 16 to 18, 651 Arts is presenting the world premiere of Happiness, which is the last installment of the three Rites epic trilogy created by Edisa Delirious Dances and produced by curator and creative producer Marýa Wethers. So briefly introduce yourselves and your organization and tell our viewers how you two ladies got together to partner to make this happen. You can
go first.
Yes.
Sure. My name is Toya Lillard, and as you said, I am the executive director of 651 Arts. 651 Arts is a 35-year-old legacy arts organization that was born in downtown Brooklyn out of an intentional call to create specific programming reflective of the rich wealth of culture that exists within the African diaspora. So we are rooted and centered in African diasporic art and have been for 35 years. Our partnership with Edisa precedes my leadership, and I'm just really fortunate to be the person to see this dream to fruition. We began collaborating with Edisa as an organization as far back as 2015. And I'll let Edisa tell you more about the journey of Three Rites, because it's a wonderful, an amazing story of community, of collaboration, of what happens when women get together to decide to get things done. And also, deeply reflective of our core values as an organization. So we're thrilled to be able to present Three Rites, and we're super excited to end with Happiness at Weeksville Heritage Center. So I'll let Edisa tell you more about the piece.
Thank you.
Diving in, I'm Edisa Weeks. I have a company called Delirious Dances. I thought you had to be a little delirious to want a dance company in New York City, but loving the challenge that comes with having a dance company. I would describe myself as an artivist, meaning art activist, where in my work I really try and bring together community, so it's not just about me, but how can I empower other people in my process of creating work, and also creating work that really looks at the structure of our society, because I feel that it's really important that we all are engaging in the governance of this country. Yep. That it's very easy to just be on the back burner and be like, oh my God, there's this issue or that issue, but I'm like, okay, how can I use my art to actually try and make an impact and raise awareness? And so as part of that, I became really interested in looking at the Declaration of Independence and why it said that life, liberty, and happiness were guaranteed rights, and going, ooh, as a Black woman, how are those rights being guaranteed for me? As a person living in this country, like, who are those rights being upheld for and guaranteed for? And so I really wanted to do a deep dive into what do these rights mean and how do we uphold them for everyone? So it started with life, and life really looks at the how we can be better stewards and take better care of the earth, and really looking at our use of fossil fuels and plastics, and feeling that fossil fuel is killing us, whether it's through war or microplastics that we are now ingesting. Liberty is really diving into the foundations of liberty in America and the pathologizing of African Americans by psychiatry, and structures that were done can be undone. And so really, I call the liberty rite a rite of undoing. So it's looking at the past to say, how can we create a better future? And happiness is really about the present. How can we take care of each other? It's about wellness. It's about tapping into laughter and joy. Because often I feel trying to uphold all these ideals and everything from, just poverty to sexism to homophobia to ableism. I mean, there's so many things to address that sometimes it can feel overwhelming, and it can just like shut me down. And so I was like, how can I really create a rite that's not about escapism, but about how can we tap into joy? Because joy is a resilient act, and is an act of resistance. And so how can we tap into joy as a way of rejuvenation and having the strength to uphold life, liberty, and happiness for everyone? And just tapping into 651 Arts, I love the organization. I just love their commitment to risk-taking, to supporting Black excellence, to supporting artists who are creating work that really challenges what is the norm and really stretches boundaries, but in a way that's really needed and amazing and wonderful. Also, one of my commitment as an artist is how much of my work can be with other organizations that support work by Black people and focus on work by Black people or people of color, and how can I put my resources into communities of color? So I am actually nurturing as much as I'm being nurtured.
Thank you. And because you were talking about how important has been for you 651 Arts, I wanted to say that is a legacy institution. It's dedicated to preserving the legacy of Black culture in Brooklyn and celebrating the eclecticism of Black performances and pioneering new visions of African diaspora artists. And that's really is, I think, from what I've been reading and seeing, is the essence of what your organization and institution is for. And you have answered to some of my questions. And one thing I wanted to add for you, Edisa, because you've been a little bit too modest in your presentation of yourself. You grew up in Uganda, Papua New Guinea, and Brooklyn. And you're creating multimedia interactive work that merges theater with dance. You teach choreography, improvisation, modern technique, and mentors emerging artists at Queen College and CUNY.
Yes.
Just a little bit add.
Yeah.
So, Edisa, what inspired you to create this work, and what is the vision for it? You have already answered in a certain way, but if you can amplify a little bit more.
One of the things that was really fascinating for me in researching the Declaration of Independence and the life, liberty, and happiness, originally it was supposed to be life, liberty, and property. And property got turned into happiness for various reasons. One of them was that when they wrote it in the 1700s, slaves were property.
Yes.
And so that thought of, I mean, I'm going to Thomas Jefferson, who's a very complex character because he wrote the Declaration of Independence, or was the main writer of it, but he also had a huge plantation and owned a lot of slaves, and had Sally Hemings, who he had several children with, but she was 14 years old when he first started being with her. So I mean, there's a lot of complexity. in Jefferson.
Predictions.
Yep. But at the same time, knowing that if property was in there, then you couldn't advocate for the eventual release of the enslaved people. He was also big on enlightenment, so that was another reason why I got turned to happiness. And it was actually fascinating researching that the pursuit of happiness tends to stress people out. That corporations got together with psychologists in the early 1930s to say, okay, if you buy this house, if you wear this pair of jeans, if you drink this beer, that's going to make you happy. And that might give you prestige, it might give you respect, but it doesn't necessarily make you happy. What they're finding is what actually makes people happy are, sitting down and having a conversation together where you're kind of just shooting the breeze, sharing a meal, surprises are a big one. Also volunteering, where you see that you're making a difference in a situation or another person's life. It's those very simple things that really make people happy. So I really wanted to create a rite that was about bringing people together. I often explain the rite as being a wedding event where the audience, the guests, are the wedding party. So at the rite, you can have a massage, you can have a delirious hair design, where you name it, we'll put it in your hair. Doesn't matter if you're bald or have long hair, we got tons of stuff, and the bigger the better. You can get your portrait drawn. You can have a personal music moment where they'll compose a song just for you. We also teach line dances. We've partnered with the Brownsville Community Culinary Center, and they're creating an amazing meal, which I'm like super, super excited. We're supposed to have a taste testing next week, and I'm like, can't wait for that. And so it's really about tapping into joy. Also, as part of the rite, we do what we call laughter sizes. And one of the, again, as part of the research, what they're finding is that even if you fake a laugh, it will have the same health benefits as real laughter.
Yeah.
So in terms of releasing serotonin, which makes you, it's our natural chemical in the body and the brain that makes you feel good. It also boosts your immune system and increases your white blood cells. I mean, laughter is good for us. And so how can I put a caveat that, I mean, laughter where you're laughing with a person and not at a person.
Yes.
Like laughter where you're really, it's about community. And sometimes for me, it's also that point where I need to laugh because otherwise I would be crying and then be a puddle on the floor over there. So how can I tap into laughter as a practice? And so we do laughter sizes. The happiness rite also includes a live band. It's the Occidental Brothers Dance Band International, and they do this amazing mix of high life and suku music, which is music I grew up listening to, and it's very upbeat and joyous, so it really makes you want to move. And the whole rite ends in basically a dance party with the band. Yeah. Oh, and I forgot to say, it's at Weeksville. So we're trying to arrange to have tours of the Weeksville houses as part of the happiness rite. Weeksville is one of my favorite locations in New York City. So if you haven't been, even if you don't come see the rite, I hope you can go just visit Weeksville and take a tour of the Weeksville houses. If people don't know, Weeksville is it was started like, I think in the late 1700s, if I remember right. But it was a community of free Blacks in Brooklyn who
It's one of the first free Black communities in Brooklyn, and where formerly enslaved Black folks could settle. So it's really important historically for folks who are archivists, historians, but also anyone interested in Black culture. It's really important. And they have the original row houses that have been restored that were built on that land. So it's an amazing place in Brooklyn that we should all visit.
I've never heard of this before. That's incredible. Thank you. I really, you know why I love doing this also is because I always learn something, always. And it's, to me, learning is fundamental, because if you don't learn, I think your brain dies. So, you know, and I never heard of this. It's crazy. I want to come. I'm definitely want to go there.
No, it's important right now that places like Weeksville Heritage Center exist, and that places like 651 Arts exists, because we're living in a time of erasure where culture is being erased before our eyes, and where children are not being taught or given context for very important historical occurrences like enslavement and post-enslavement. And so part of why it's important for us to partner with an entity like Weeksville Heritage Center is because we believe that archive is our response to erasure, and work like Edisa's work represents an archive that we all need to be aware of. There are threads in her work that make us all better, right? Context is everything. And so thinking about our own capacity to excavate our personal archives, our family histories, the history of us being in this city, the history of our relationships is so important right now.
It's fundamental. So thank you for doing this, because what you're doing is bringing peace, giving peace a chance, like the Beatles were saying. So thank you so much. And I'm interested to know, how did you two meet?
Oh, wow. We met formally many years ago through Stephanie Siegel, who runs Bailey's Cafe. Again, our story underscores the importance of community and the importance of really upholding and growing the relationships that precede you, right? Edisa came into my life before I took on this role. And so when I did take on the role, I knew very well who Edisa Weeks is. And I had reverence, I had context, I knew who I was talking to and dealing with, and the importance of continuing to develop this work. So again, we say that community is everything, relationships are everything. And some of what we're seeing and suffering through right now in the world is the result of a lack of community and a lack of relationships and folks that have been stratified. So again, happiness is an opportunity for us to come together to consider how we create and sustain community and how we support the art during times like this. How are we going to make art? How are the artists going to do their job? It's all of our jobs to help figure out how.
Yes, and the arts are the least supported, not only here, but everywhere. In Europe is a little bit more sustained in certain countries, but we need to do much, much, much more for the arts, because this is what supports, for me and for you, obviously, is what supports the good in society and what makes the good thrive, because arts are bringing together the good.
One of my favorite quotes is by Bertolt Brecht, who said, "Art is not a mirror to reflect society, but a hammer with which to shape it." And so I feel too often art becomes something that's just about entertainment, which is lovely and wonderful, but it also can have so many more layers of, how do we educate and how do we see each other and see each other's humanity? Because I feel often it's too easy to other and distance yourself from a community, as opposed to saying we are a large ecosystem and we all need to figure out how to function together, because it's like, you can't just eradicate a people. That type of government strategy maybe worked in the 1700s and before then, but now with internet, you can't do that, because you were being put on on blast, and they can't control the media. So again, circling back to 651 Arts, one of the things is like what Toya was saying, is that you need to control your own narrative. And also in terms of Marýa, what you were saying about what's happening in Florida, like, yes, they're going to try and erase the narrative, but then you need to control your narrative.
Yeah.
And so and part of that is putting your stories out there.
And there's so many different ways to tell a story and to teach history, and so many modalities that other cultures have developed over time that we can draw upon. I'm inspired, and it gives me hope, because we can draw upon our ancestral wisdom and what those who came before us did in order to continue to remember our story and to uplift those memories.
Yes. Those who don't know their history don't know how to live their lives and can't prepare for the future. It's really very important to be able to know your history. And that's why they are trying to cancel, to eliminate your history.
Yeah.
And the truth of your origin story. So many of us were lied to and grew up with origin stories that were not true at all, that caused us to be socialized with shame. So it's really important to think and consider about consider truthfulness, and whether what you've been taught or what you've learned and what's been passed down to you is of use to you right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So the only thing I wanted to ask you, Toya, at 651 Arts, you have been presenting in this 35 years. First of all, congratulations, because an institution that lives, still thrives after 35 years, a cultural institution.
Thank you.
Not the easiest thing. And you have presented dialogues, performance, theatrical and test-based works by amazing people. I'm just saying a few names, and then you can elaborate the rest. Somi, Hugh Masekela, Sekou Sundiata,
Muthi Joseph, Ntozake Shange, Anna DeVera Smith, the list goes on. Miss Dee Dee Bridgewater, who is at the helm of our legacy Woodshed Network residency. The list goes on and on and on. And we're so excited that after 35 years of doing this work without a permanent home, we are about to move into our first ever permanent home at 10 Lafayette next month. I can't believe I'm saying it out loud, but it marks a watershed moment for the organization, because we'll have the opportunity to really give our artists a home that is studio space to rehearse and perform, a state-of-the-art black box theater to produce shows, conference rooms, office space, you name it. It's really an important moment in time for us as an organization and for our family of artists, because not only are we in a housing crisis, but we're in a crisis of there's a lack and a dearth of spaces for artists to incubate their work. Everyone wants to capitalize upon it after it's done, but who's supporting the work and the development of it? So that's what we're here for, and we're super excited.
Fantastic. And you know what you just said? Didi is a friend of mine, and she was talking to me all the time. She's always talking about this organization that she's doing for it. I never knew it was your organization. She probably said it, but I didn't know it was you. So this world is very small.
It is very small. And I went to college with her. We were in the same college, we weren't in the same class, but her daughter Tulani. So yeah, it is a very small world.
It's incredible. That's fantastic. Now I know exactly, because she really told me a lot about your organization and what you're doing, but I didn't know it was the same one. So see?
Yeah.
Fantastic. You also had choreographers from all over the world, Black choreographers. Tell me a little bit about that, because I mean, the list of the people and the names and the fame and the excellence of the people you've been having there, it's incredible.
Yeah, 651 Arts really began, our co-founder, Mickey Shepard, is, known for, first of all, she's an icon, and secondly, known for being in movement spaces. So we began our work with artists who were choreographers, dancers, We're deeply rooted in movement spaces, and that's how we developed as an organization. So we are really excited to uphold our roots in movement spaces. For example, our studios all have sprung floors. Okay, that's how serious we are about making sure that our artists have the very best. We know that 95% of the artists that we work with are movers, and so we got sprung floors all throughout our spaces. So, and for example, an icon like Miss Diane McIntyre is connected to our organization. And the list really in terms of movement, choreographers, dancers goes on and on. And I think it's important because Black dance is another space that is being encroached upon, where there's a lack of resources, a lack of recognition, and a lack of space for Black dancers to thrive.
You want to say a last word, Edisa, before we leave?
I was going to add the very first performance that I saw that was presented by 651 Arts was Fly Woman of Dance, which featured an amazing, phenomenal group of women. It was Jawale with Urban Bush Woman. It was Jermaine Cogney, who's from Senegal. It was Bibi Miller, Diane McIntyre, and Carmen de Lavalade. That I saw that years ago, but it still resonates with me for the just wealth of talent and fierceness and creativity that was on stage for that performance. Also, my very, very first connection with 651 Arts was when I was working with Reggie Wilson, Fist and Heel Performance Group, and we performed at Band Majestic, which was part of the 651 Arts theaters that they worked with. And what's phenomenal for me right now is that they're going to have their own home.
Thank you so much for this really engaging, informing, enriching conversation. I give you all my best wishes for the new home, the new productions, everything you're going to do, and I'm going to see you for life, for joy. Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We can't wait to see you at Happiness, November 16th, 17th, and 18th at Weeksville Heritage Center. So check out 651arts.org for tickets.
Thank you so much. And
thank you.
For next time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.